actually whether you can go down here. That was so great.
Oh,
you can, but we need to go further.
Can you send me to an emergency room, please, so I can extricate?
Oh, I've had the most terrible
So if you make
a left and then a right and then a left.
Here we go.
I mean, this is the bridge.
Oh, that works.
They needed a code check, so in order to get around the whole building permit, they've just backed a truck up and cut a hole into the place, which I always thought was sort of brilliant. But this is Mechanics Alley. This is my favorite.
It's very Blade Runner.
Yeah. The night we opened, it was pouring like a monsoon, remember? It was very Blade Runner.
Click and Drag never really was just a party. It was about, I mean, me, Chi-Chi, and Rob could just have easily have been like doing art together.
Chi-Chi and Johnny decided to take over the space that was Jackie 60, and they opened Mother, and she offered me a Saturday night.
We started Click and Drag in 1996, but it actually grew out of a body of work that started in 1992.
We had talked about doing this little idea called Click and Drag for like the 12 people like us in the world who would get it and want to go and sit there with our laptops acting like complete fools. And it just turned out, and then she asked Kitty to do a fetish night, and we just sort of, it just compounded and turned into this really big event.
Meine Herren, heute sehen Sie mich Gläser abwaschen und ich mache das Bett für jeden. Und Sie geben mir einen Penny und ich bedanke mich schnell.
So we're coming up to the meatpacking district where Mother used to be.
Oh, this is the compilation for, this is what I did for their tour.
The old tour though,
Yeah.
Did you go today?
Yeah. It's a good set. I thought they were going to play your favorite, but
It looks remarkably the same.
I know, the door is still
exactly
I can't
the same.
imagine taking over a space and not like changing the door at least.
Yeah, I mean this door is still an artifact from the old civilization, but as soon as you cross here, this actually is very creepy because what did this used to be? Just like
it was like,
yeah. This used to have the most beautiful signage going down it that said like baby lambs and
yeah.
Schnitzel and really ancient and sort of, like the way signs sometimes look like in Coney Island or New Orleans. And New York has so little of that. So I always loved all the writing on the walls here. So to see it like that, it really is like something that, well, like Fran Lebowitz said, how everything in New York becomes like a copy of what it was when it was good, like the South Street Seaport and things. It's like this Disney concept, not the real, or Vegas, like not the real New York, but what used to be here. Our goal with Click and Drag was to establish a laboratory where the experimentation of this very new thing, the axis between clubs and computers, between online and offline, but in the sense of a club, of a spectacle, to just create a laboratory where we could do work like that and develop an audience that would participate in it, some of them to be only an online audience that would never actually be there.
Initially, the very first thing was a big joke was that it was only going to be for the 10 or 11 people who would get it, like me and Chi-Chi, and we always pictured it being this very little party in the basement, like having a separate entrance and it being so small in this little catacomb and only having like 4 or 5 people in the beginning talking about their hard drives and getting dressed up and going. But then what we realized was that the computer was an actual fetish, that it was, people fetishized technology and we were, that's what, because I never really, I wouldn't say I was a fetishist of, sexually or anything, but maybe. But it was the computer that we would always be like completely fetishizing. So along came Kitty Boots with her. She wanted to do a fetish, like a proper, you know, London fetish night, and we just combined the two because no one had ever really done it, and it just sort of worked. People just from both sides came in, and then the whole, you know, it was perfect timing because right then is when sex and technology really molded together. I mean, there was always the VCR, and when that happened, and porn and everything, but the net was just like, it just exploded. You know, that's what really made the net explode, was pornography. I was just obsessed with the idea of cybernetic, you know, enhancements and attachments and, you know, peripherals that you just plug in and, you know, put on. So it definitely clicked with, I mean, most of our themes had to do with that. It had to do with sexuality and technology and gender and technology and the morphing.
There were, for so many years before we got here, a few like pocket great outposts that were here, like Lee's Mardi Gras was completely seminal, and the first place that ever brought me to this neighborhood, like decades before Jackie, and just the experience of being in this neighborhood and going up in the elevator, you know, having like some amazing tranny take you up to this tranny boutique where, you know, judges were there in their business suits buying tranny clothes and stuff. I mean, it was truly, truly underground. The idea of new people and the idea that there's 18 or 30 or 300 genders, which is something that we've all known in the night, in our part of the night for a while, that definitely was an influence in Click and Drag. And it definitely, the idea of gender hacking, which we certainly devoted quite a few episodes to and always had quite a big fan base within gender hacking, that was exciting and it did inspire us. I would say it was one of the things that led to the sort of cyber melting pot that was Click and Drag. But more in the sense of like the idea of self-transformation, which I think that so much of gender change and gender identity really has to do with that, and the idea of having this goal and transforming yourself towards it.